What's this, 4 minutes? Yeah, I guess that's right. Hey, if you got this part of the video, you've got the live unedited edition. Home Gadget Geeks, Thursday night, the 8th of October, 2020. And I want to welcome you. If you're out there live and there's a bunch of you out there listening live, take a second, log into the chat room. Love to have you do that. Actually, there's a link. Well, chat room's actually on the video. If you're on the live page, theaverageguy.tv/live, the video is, the chat room is right below the video down there. Audio only if you need to do it that way. And then if you want to, let's see, what else do I say here on Home Gadget Geeks? I almost went into my full gallop. Like there's a whole bunch of things. I can say this. Right below Nathaniel down there is a little subscribe, or it's actually a little like button, right? A little thumbs up. So if you're, right down, just straight down. If you click on the thumbs up, that's nice. It's like leaving a tip. It's better than a tip because it doesn't cost you anything. So click the thumbs up when you're in there. Appreciate that during the show. Encourage others to do that as well. That helps us get discovered on YouTube. And then if you want to subscribe over in the corner, it's over in that corner over there. There's a subscribe button. Every time we go live, you'll get some kind of notification, email, toast notification, something along those lines. And you'll never miss a show. I just got my toast notification, just popped out and said, Home Gadget Geeks 463 is live, and I'd love to have you come out. Check in the chat room. I'm seeing Brian. Nathaniel has checked in there as well. And we'd love to have you check in. I see a few of you checking in the chat room. Let us know you are there. If you've caught this on YouTube, you're just jumping in here. Maybe you found it some way. It's a long play show. So if you're in for it, just hang tight. It's fine. If you're looking for a DIY 3-minute thing, there's other shows. But stay around. We'd love to have you stay around. We have a lot of fun here. We got a great community. If you're into that, we'd love to have you in it and love to have you stay. If you want to join our community, the best way to do that, theaverageguy.tv/Discord. We'll get you in that. You can jump in that as well. We'd love to have you in there. Just don't be a jerk. And everybody who's in there is doing a great job. So we appreciate you guys doing that as well. Jim, good to see you. Ooh, Fluffer Nutter Day. I like that. We make, like, Mike, your mic, you went off again, I think. There we go.
Yep.
There we go. We make Fluffer Nutter shots, which are, shouldn't be giving that secret away because it's like every day. But there's like, it's like a whipped vodka and like this whipped cream Fluffer Nutter thing.
I don't know what a Fluffer Nutter is.
It's like, I think it's a marshmallow.
It's a candy bar?
Do you know?
I know what a Nutter Butter is. I don't know what a Fluffer. I feel like I'm gonna have. I actually like have safe search on when I do this. Fluffer Nutter.
Fluffer Nutter. It is a.
Doesn't sound like something you should Google.
No,
that looks really good.
Peanut butter and marshmallow sandwich.
Yeah,
I'm seeing the Fluffer Nutter panini, and that looks amazing.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. Okay.
From taste and tell. Yeah. It's. So I think we did. Like a marshmallow or a whipped cream vodka and Screwball. So that was the peanut butter. The Screwball was the peanut butter. You could use Rebel if you wanted to. And then the whipped cream vodka was the marshmallow. And so you get a Fluffer Nutter shot. They're delightful. They go down way too easy.
Delicious.
Way too easy. You have to check twice on those. Like, okay, mark it off. And when you've had one, stop. That's what you need to do. Thanks for joining us tonight. Education topic tonight. We're going to talk some tech. Nathaniel's got a cool little light that he's going to show you, which I think is kind of nifty. Hang tight. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. John, good to see you out there. John Biggs, good to see you. And welcome. Mike, how's the ham? What's a quick 1 minute follow-up to what'd you do on ham this week?
So there is from now. So they use in ham radio use UTC time. Right. So in Nebraska at 7:00, we hit tomorrow. We were on Friday if you're on UTC time. So from Friday to Sunday, 100 watts in a wire is a contest going on. One of a low key contest, a very new person friendly contest. You don't need to exchange anything extra with the person, but trying to make a bunch of contacts. So this weekend we're going to do 100 watts in a wire. Did some more POTA. And did I do anything else? I don't know if I did.
POTA sounds like a delicious sandwich, like on a that should come off the grill.
Well, you could have a delicious POTA sandwich on the grill while doing POTA Parks on the Air. Hey,
we got a visitor with us.
Yeah.
Hi there. Good to see you. What grade are you in?
Oh,
She
he didn't have his
probably
headphones in.
can't.
We're going to talk about
Yeah, what grade is she in?
doing a good job at school. This is my fifth grader.
Hi.
Hi, you're in fifth grade?
Mhm.
And are you going to school or are you doing school at home?
I'm kind of doing hybrid.
Hybrid.
So 2
Okay.
days at school
Yeah.
and 2 days at home.
Yeah.
And how's your math homework coming along? Can you tell me a little bit about your math homework? Is that you doing okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Can tell me a little bit about what are you studying in math?
Been mostly division.
Oh, division. Nice. Have you gotten into long division where it's like big numbers and
Nah.
You
Well,
carry
we're doing
the-
like, I don't know, in the middle, I guess.
Okay. in the middle? All right. Well, that's fair enough. Division in the middle is fair enough. What about, do you have like science? Do you study any technology?
No.
No?
Not doing science right now?
No.
Social studies?
No.
No. Mm. So just math? What else? What else do you have? What other
We
subjects?
do writing and reading.
Okay. And do you like to write and read?
I do.
She writes good stories.
Oh, would you write? How about a tech review blog?
Yeah.
You ever thought of no?
Nope.
When you want to brainstorm on ideas on reviewing the latest iPhone or something like that, maybe. What do you think? No.
Sounds like
Not-
her and Sammy need to talk though.
She needed she did a fashion video.
Oh yeah. No, I
other
wasn't doing
night.
a fashion video. I was doing a video of me.
Oh, okay.
Trying on different sweaters. and-
Yeah.
Nice. And do you write about it? Do you have a blog? Do you?
No.
Are you an influencer? Are you a YouTuber? No, none of those things.
I just
TikTok?
No,
No.
I use Flipgrid.
Flipgrid is a great thing to use.
Oh.
Nice. Very nice. Well, shoot. You're not. How old are you then?
10.
10. So you're not. I mean, maybe when you're 12 or 13, you can be a podcaster.
Maybe.
What-
Well, that's
what-
when Christian started, right? He was 13.
15. I think
Yeah,
it was
right.
15. I think it was 15 when he started. But I think you could start at 12. I think that'd be okay. You could probably have your own podcast.
Yeah.
If you were going to start a podcast, what would you podcast about?
Teeth.
No. Would you do you could do reviews of different musicals or shows that you like and tell people what you thought of it and what was the best part?
I don't know.
Who's your top 3 singer, artists, performers?
Number 3?
I don't know.
Who's your top 3?
How about Taylor Swift?
No.
Beyonce.
No.
That's all. That's the only 2 I know.
I'm bad at this too. Unless she's into country music, I'm out.
Chat room, you're gonna have to help us out. Who do you think?
Nicki
Who's
Minaj.
your favorite? Who's your favorite artist?
Who's your favorite singer?
Translating down to 10 years.
I don't have a favorite singer.
Oh,
But
all right.
I guess I have a favorite actor.
Okay, who's
Oh
that?
yeah.
I like Julie Andrews
Oh yeah, classy.
all
I like
right,
it.
Nice.
And
and Barbara Streisand.
Wow. Well, there's some you
like
you
it.
kind of maybe an old soul in there.
who was number 3?
I don't know.
I can't remember. Oh yeah, from Maleficent.
Nah, not anymore.
Oh, not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, that was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Catch up, Dad.
Yeah.
Well,
Wait.
okay, so
Weird Al.
Oh,
No, Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, there you go. He's one of my
I
favorites,
like Dwayne
too.
Johnson. I like him.
He's
His
good.
singing is pretty good too. He was on
Yeah.
Moana.
Moana.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does pretty good. I was like, is that really him? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, wow, I'd listen to that all the time.
Yeah. Him and Kevin Hart together too are hilarious.
Yeah. Those Jumanji movies are pretty fun.
Yep.
All right. Hey, thank you for coming on the show and being a part of it. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. Yeah, good to meet you. And see, I think the last time I saw you, you were a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your dad's been doing this a long time. Thanks
Nice
for
to
coming
meet you.
on.
Bye.
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 Thanks for
Bye,
coming
hon.
on.
Daisy, go on. Go on. Go on.
That is
Yeah,
super
thanks.
great.
Daisy the dog will get stuck in here and then she'll want to go see what other people are doing and have to go and open the door. And
Yep.
she can't stand having 3 different people going on in the house that she has
No.
to keep an eye on.
No, you got to stay on top of it. All right, guys, if
you.
you're in the chat room, that was super fun. Guys, if you're in the chat room, thanks for checking in. Brian, Alex, Ken, John, Jim, Nathaniel's checking in as well. Thanks for being out there. I think it's time. Let's kick this thing off. Here we
Let's
go.
do it.
Watch that keyboard, Nathaniel. It's a loud one. All right, here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 463, recorded on October 8th, 2020. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Carlson, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios. And Mike, we sat on the deck last night, turned the lights on, enjoyed a beverage and a cigar. 77, 76. Gorgeous.
We tried to do the same thing. We actually tried to light a fire because I'm like, you know what, a little campfire right now would be perfect. The wood I had not been dead long enough because it was the wood we got when the storm rolled through, knocked all those trees. So it needs to dry a little bit more. But yeah, same thing, Jim.
Nathaniel, is it dry up there for you guys? I mean, we're really, I don't think we've seen rain in 2 months. Dry for you guys up there?
Yeah, we've gotten a little bit of rain, but not much. We've had like a week of 30s and 40s, and then this week is 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. So it's up and down like usual. And now all the leaves are falling. The one thing they say is like we've had a lot earlier leaf falling than normal.
I think with the dryness, the trees are just ready to give up. They're like, let's get rid of these things and go dormant for the winter. But it has created some in the Midwest here, just some spectacular evenings.
Gorgeous.
And so, man, if you hopefully where you're at and where you're listening, you've got a chance to do that as well. I was talking to some friends in Australia this morning and it was raining. So it's probably good. You need it, but we could use some too. Of course, what we could really use is some good show notes. And so full transcripts and a few notes that are out there today out at the AverageGuy.tv. Of course, this month, it's October. We're talking a little bit about Canva. I talked a little bit about this last week. If you go to the AverageGuy.tv/Canva, you can use your free plan or sign up for it. It's kind of like, it's like creating graphic design for dummies. A great way, even I can do it. The album art, a lot of the album art we do here. One of the things I created on Canva, one of the things I forgot to mention, I mentioned at the very end of the show last week, is we're doing a little contest, and I'd like you to jump on Canva and try to create some album art. You can either do it to recreate the Home Gadget Geeks album art. I'll use it temporarily. Or if you want to change the show art for this particular show or any of the shows, be creative. Head out to the AverageGuy.tv/Canva. You can use the free plan. They have some paid plans if you want to get some art. Like we mentioned last week, you can download some of those images and pay for them. They're like $1. It's not terribly expensive. I use it for work all the time. Check it out, theaverageguy.tv/Canva. Send me your submissions, Jim at theaverageguy.tv, and we'll see if we can get those. We can kind of sneak those in and get them, get a chance for you to influence what we do here with the album art. A couple reminders before we get started. One, October 24th is our 2020 meetup, MEAT meetup, going on. Barbecue, grill, and smoking meetup. By the way, don't have to do any of those to be a part of this meetup. So if you're thinking about coming and you want to join us, you can just hang out. We have an 8 a.m. Central, a 1 p.m. Central, a 3 p.m. little cigar meetup, 3 p.m., and then an 8 p.m. meetup. 4 meetups throughout the day. You can attend one or all of them or whatever you want to do. Mike and I and maybe some other folks will have our grills live streaming all day long. And Mike, I'm going to do, I think I told you I'm going to roast a chicken and do some wings. So super excited about that. So you can join us right now. The link will be in the show notes to get that. So head out to theaverageguy.tv/HGG463 to make sure that you can get the link to that. It'll take you to Eventbrite. Just register so you get that done. We'd love to see you there. Mike, I'm kind of looking forward to it.
I am too. Mainly because I that's how I learn how to barbecue, is by watching other people do it. And so, YouTube is great. So seeing live what other people are doing, I'm going to be writing down everyone's recipes as they do it, because I love to learn that way. That's how I do it. Good opportunity to do that. Nathaniel, going to be able to join us for parts of that?
Yeah, I'm glad there's going to be a schedule so I know when to check in. From barbecuing, for me, I learned by eating barbecue and then realizing that someone else is going to do a really good job of this.
Yeah,
Well, I think my sister's in town that week, and she lives in Minnesota, so I'll just package it up with her, and I'll say, take this back up. There's a guy up there you need to deliver this to. We'll do it that way.
I would take it. My uncle in Des Moines barbecues a lot, so when we visit him,
It's even
he
closer
sends
than
home-
Omaha, so there you go.
Yeah.
Yep, he wraps up some ribs for us, and it's a real treat.
It's going to be super good. I can't wait to get it done. We'll deploy a little tech on that as well. And then the Patreon meetup, the next one, we had one earlier. We're going to schedule another one for November 5th. So if you're a part of our Patreon group and you want to join us out there, just head out to theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. We've discovered tonight, if you don't have your email alert notifications on Patreon, you're never going to hear from me. So if you are a Patreon subscriber, head out there and turn it on. Not saying anybody didn't do that, but Mike Uyghur had it turned off.
That was me.
And actually, it was set to another account. But go out there and turn those on. If you want to join us, we have a $5 plan that you can join us on. And if you schedule it right now, you'll be able to join us for the November 5th meetup. So get in there. theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. Nathaniel, you were at the last meetup. How do we do? How do we do?
It was good. I think it was a good number of folks, so it wasn't too overwhelming. You get too many people, and then it's just a couple of people get to talk and everybody listens. So it's a good number, and it's always exciting or interesting for me to hear what other people are working on, where their expertise is, their perspective. So it's always reassuring to know, oh yeah, okay, I've heard that name in the chat, and now I remember that's what that guy looks like. Or get to know him
it's kind of cool how we had intros that we got to do this time. So next time maybe we can come with like a topic and really jump right into it without having to do a bunch of intros, because we just did that a month ago. I think that format worked well.
Yeah, I'll have a topic. I'll have some questions to ask, some things to talk about. We got some ideas from that group the last time on some things to for the regular meetups to do. So probably at this point we'll be scheduling a January meetup that will be like, so 1 month we'll do Patreon. The next month we'll do something. I may do 3D printing or something along those lines. So I got a whole list of topics from you guys, and we're excited to do it. So again, head out there and join us. If you're on Patreon, either go to Patreon, theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. The post will be there with the link to Eventbrite, or you can join us on Patreon as well. And let's get that done. Nathaniel Lindley is back. Nathaniel, you may get, I think quietly, you have the record for most appearances on Home Gadget Geeks, because I looked you up. I think 2013 was the very first time you were on. I think I've had you on at least twice a year since then. You just kind of quietly, just kind of filled in. Thanks for doing that. Appreciate it. Welcome.
Yeah, I think every 6 months is just about right for me to fit it in. So what do they say? Like first time caller, long time listener.
Yeah,
right.
Long time caller.
Periodic
listener.
Yeah. No,
it's all good. We had you on in the spring, and God, that feels like 1980, doesn't it? Like it. It's a long.
March is a long time ago. Hey, I don't remember if I was on in March or April or when it was, but it all kind of blends together.
I think we had you and who joined us? Yeah. Freelander came on, and we talked a little bit about what was going on then. Primarily, give us again. Tell us what you do for the school district. What's your role and what you do?
Right. For a medium-sized public school district here outside Minneapolis, I sort of the technology supervisor. So I help coordinate the efforts of the team that are out in the buildings and in the district, and all the various parts that are moving, sort of a liaison.
Yeah, and I think you've always been, at least a lot of the specialty you brought is kind of from a hardware perspective. We've talked in the past about you guys were using Chromebooks and just kind of Wi-Fi and how to make that work and kind of the setup. I want to ask you, before we kind of talk a little bit about how you guys have transitioned, what have you learned? What have you learned during this time as we think about, personally thinking through the things you take away from just the last 6 months? Anything as you think about that, anything that you would say, oh man, this has been an education for me, and some things I've learned on this. What would you say?
I think the number one thing is last spring and this fall again is the clear need to have better broadband access for everyone.
Yeah.
The number one complaint is that families aren't set up for good internet where their household is.
Yeah.
And that's both within the suburban area, in urban Minneapolis, St. Paul, as well as outstate in the rural. That's the number one frustration, is the choices, the access, the complexity, the quality. It's been really hard. That's
Stability.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And if we're trying to connect with families and do Zoom calls and meets, the internet is so critical. And there's only so much school districts can do to help Band-Aid the situation. We need the state, or the federal government to really step in and start treating it like a utility and rolling it out like they did telephones.
Yeah.
And saying this is more important.
That's the second time in a week I've heard someone refer to the internet as utility. Do you think that, do you think we have any ability to go that direction in what you're seeing? Or is that kind of a pipe dream? We keep talking about it, but for now,
I think everybody agrees. It's like infrastructure and roads and bridges.
Yeah.
Everyone campaigns on, yep, I'm going to fix bridges and roads. But when it comes down to like, well, we got to raise the gas tax to do it. They were like, oh, wait a minute. I don't want to do that. So
we'll get internet tomorrow. We'll get the internet tomorrow. Yeah.
And it's hard because if it works for me, I have access, I have choice, then somebody else's problem. So I don't know. Maybe it'll happen. It may depend how this school year goes.
Yeah, we may need to get through a full school year. I think, in the spring we were responding based on half of a school year for the most part, right? Not even the year, half of a semester, right? It was kind of just cobble it together. This year, schools had at least a summer to kind of get some things put together, figure some things out. We were kind of debating back in the spring. We were speculating on kind of where school would go and how they'd actually do it. Where did you guys land as far as how they're actually conducting classes, alternate days? How are they doing that?
Sure. We had the summer to kind of plan out scenarios. Our governor said, plan for A, B, and C, and we'll let you know at the end of July what we decide as a state, working with the Minnesota Department of Health, Minnesota Department of Education, and the governor's office. So we spent a lot of time brainstorming and putting pieces of the puzzle together to what this could look like. Would it be full in person, some sort of in between, or full distance? What we ended up with in the district I work in and the district that my kids are in is a sort of a hybrid model, which is very common in the districts that are small enough to pull it off. So that means my fifth grader goes 2 days a week to in-person class, and she has a smaller group of students in her fifth grade class. They all wear masks all day. They eat in their classroom. The food is all pull apart, take out lunch. And then Wednesday, she's distance learning, and then Thursday and Friday, distance learning. They did announce, her school said that later in October, they're going to be 4 days a week in class because the case numbers have gone down and the district feels like they can keep that unit together. And in her class, in some ways, it's not that when she goes Thursday and Friday, it would be more kids. It would just be the same kids 4 days a week instead of 2. So every school and district's a little bit different in their numbers and their structure. The district I work for is very similar, where they have an A group of students that come Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday is what they call asynchronous online learning day, where there's students. I don't think they have as many synchronous meets or live meets, but they have work to do. The teachers spend a lot of time on that day planning, regrouping, getting ready for Thursday and Friday. And then they have a B group Thursday, Friday. Most districts, including these two, have the option for families to say, no, thanks, we're all distance learning. My kid will stay at home. They'll do their learning at home. And so then what a lot of districts have done is say, okay, we've got a cohort of teachers that can meet the distance learning need and it's usually right around 20%. 20% of the families say, we want to be all distance learning for one reason or another. And so they divide off a chunk of staff that work with those distance learning students, and then 80% are in the building. So that's typically the structure. Some larger districts have said we're all distance learning to start because we don't feel like we have the ability to have students and staff all in the building, even on rotations, because of the complexities with transportation and timing and staffing needs and this and that. So I'm not sure, but I believe Minneapolis and St. Paul, which are two of the larger districts, are still all distance learning. And whether they're coming back to a hybrid, I'm not quite sure. But the smaller schools and private schools or parochial schools or real small districts, a lot of them are pulling off full in-person learning. And they may still have some distance component or not, but most of the kids are there every day because they're able to spread out. They're able to get smaller classes. So it's really all over the place, which makes it hard as a state to track all that. But those are some of the scenarios.
Nathaniel, as we've gone through this, of course, there's been some ways to track. And Mike, what do they call that on the iPhone where you can enable it so if somebody nearby you has gotten COVID? That they rolled that out with 13 and
they did.
Now it's an option in 14, something like that. Proximity, no.
Exposure notification.
Thank you. There it is.
I just looked it up.
Yeah, no. Nathaniel, do you feel like has there been an ability, because certainly in the enterprise, we actually track who comes in the building, and if someone self-reports, then we can start doing some forensics to kind of be like, all right, here's who you exposed, and we can kind of do that. Does that work at all in the school district? It's just too many moving parts.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time, my district and especially the health department. So the district-wide health director has become like one of the most important roles in the district in terms of coordinating all the efforts between the LSNs, the licensed school nurse, and the school health. I don't know what that abbreviation is, but the multiple medically trained people in the district, and they've become sort of the authorities for each building on what qualifies as an exposure, what's a risk. And so we've had instances already of employees or students who have been either exposed to someone who has symptoms or been diagnosed, or themselves. And so then there's a standard quarantine isolation period, and those are different things. It's really confusing. We've had some training, and it's like the difference between isolation and quarantine and the number of days and this. And so it's going to make it a juggling act as a principal or a teacher or a student is diagnosed. Then does a whole class have to stay home? Does just the teacher? Okay, if the teacher's at home, can they keep teaching remotely, or do we need to bring in a sub? And if they are remote, then we need someone in the classroom to supervise the students who are in place. So the permutations of complexity are high. And it's incredible work that this health staff is doing on the behalf of the students and the staff. But it gets pretty complicated. So the standard procedure is that if an employee or a family member finds out, they have to email the health person for their building and the supervisor, the principal. And then there's this flow chart of, okay, what's the ramifications and what do we do?
Yeah. It's complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just really, and then in this kind of situation, there's just so many moving parts. Have you guys, so from a tech perspective, have you guys deployed, did you do anything different this fall, tech-wise, infrastructure-wise? We talked about, the lack of broadband at home, but what did you guys do to prep for the fall?
Well, the big thing for my department is going from a shared in-classroom device model, where the K through 5 students came to school, they used the devices in the classroom, they did not take them home. And often cases they shared them rather than one-to-one. That was in the winter. Spring came and we had to send as many devices home with kids. We didn't have enough. So a lot of times, like, if you have a device at home that works, can you just use that until we can get more? We were fortunate enough to be able to get our orders in for more devices in the spring so that we could get them in the summer. There's a big international shortage for major suppliers like Dell, Lenovo, HP. And so we are real lucky, but my partner school districts around the state are like, I've got to order for 1,000 and I have no idea if they'll come before January, maybe in the spring. Wow. So I will say that Apple has been incredibly efficient, or somehow been able to keep their supply chains up. and deliver product unlike some of the other vendors. And I'm sure it has to do with the complexity of trade agreements and manufacturing and sourcing parts. But we ordered a fair amount in the spring, planning for the fall. So we got another 1,000 iPads and then 1,400 more Chromebooks. So we spent the summer getting those prepped and ready, taking the old ones in, getting them fixed up, getting them updated, getting them prepped. And then a lot of late summer and fall was spent checking them out to all the students. And so that's a huge change for our younger students, K-5, and setting them up to having the device that they take home, managed, getting on the Wi-Fi at home, getting signed into the right account. We've learned a lot because, of course, not having done this practice before, there was a lot of mistakes made in the deployment. But incredible work by my team, like trying to get it done and predict like a chess game 3 steps ahead of, if we do this and this, will this work better for us in the long run or worse? So moving one-to-one has been the biggest challenge. And we've been fortunate to get the devices. The other thing that we're still struggling to learn is how to depend on technology and predict its faults when we depend on technology way more than we have. So, doing a Google Meet was kind of a novelty before, and now it's like 3 times a day. If the kid can't get in, do they get marked absent, through no fault of their own? Yeah. And so we've taken on a lot of work trying to help families and students get connected and troubleshoot. And, we do a lot of phone calls with parents. I'm sitting here with my first grader. They got the iPad. We're trying to do this and it's not connecting. It's saying this, and we're over the phone trying to do remote screen shares and troubleshoot. And sometimes I've had to tell a parent, I can't figure it out. I've done everything I know how to do and I can't tell you why it's not working. Just send an email to the teacher later and say, you did your best, you couldn't connect. And so that's a big change. We used to have control because everything was in the class.
Right.
And we've lost a lot of control.
Yeah. Do you feel like, Mike, I don't know about you, and I'll ask you here in a second, but where I'm at, about every quarter, we'd figure 2 or 3 things out and they'd redeploy some things like, okay, this didn't work, we're going to do this. And this didn't work, we're going to do it this way. And we even rolled out like Windows Hello capabilities, I think 4 or 5 weeks ago. That's a pretty big going from just regular sign in to allowing some Windows Hello options. And there was like, it worked one way at first, and then a week or 2 later it changed, and I was like, oh, they're figuring some things out. Mike, have you had that same experience at work of just kind of constant iteration?
100%. Yeah. All of our technology, whether it's our contract management systems or there's things that we've tried to implement ourselves, we roll our own or we get it off the shelf, and it's always a constant evolution, especially when you're trying to the company I work for is trying to stay ahead of the game and always try to provide like the best technology to our clients. And that's when it gets, there's always some other vendor out there saying, well, I can do this now. I can do this now. And you feel like, we didn't even wrap up our last project and we started our new one, right? I don't know. It can get a little crazy.
Nathaniel, do you guys feel like you're getting some, the software guys call them sprints, but some abilities to deploy, learn, figure some things out, redeploy? Do you get that capability, or is it really kind of, well, I guess we're this way until the end of the year?
Right now, it feels like we're just sprinting all the time, and there's no pause and reflect. And there's a little bit of that, but it's just the fire hose is just coming with. Yeah. So we've rolled out new devices, new practices, dependent on technology tools. Then we started adding new software subscriptions. Well, if kids are home, we need another tool to be able to deliver a quiz or make it interactive, or all legit, all valuable things, but it's just the quantity of new that gets challenging. And so we find it hard to create documentation to share with the family about this, or our tech support staff to understand when you get a call for this, here's the known issues. So, we're trying to catch up And I think we'll get there. It certainly is getting better as the weeks go on and things get a little more stable. And I think part of it is both the teachers and the students are learning like glitches are now expected and a norm. And they're starting to learn to troubleshoot a little more on their own. They're starting to, learn the nuance of like, well, if I restart each night, that gives me a better chance of having a clean system in the morning. Or if I remove the 75 extensions from Chrome, then it won't take so long to load pages or, So there's a lot of that forced self-reliance and learning.
Nathaniel, it gets me thinking as you're saying this, like you're creating the next generation of remote workers who we all went remote and a lot of people struggled. That this will be like whatever, like working remote, whatever. I did this in school, and we're just at the early phases of it, and I think it is just like you said. I think it is giving us some good learning opportunities. Brian in the chat says that he says, as a teacher, I've seen students step up a lot more with regards to responsibility for their learning. It takes motivation for students to stay focused at home. I work with high school age kids, and listen, that's not just high school students or students. Like work at home, like professionals struggled, I think, through the summer to stay motivated and to stay busy. I'm to the point now where I'm actually more because I have so much more equipment here than I would at work, so many more screens. I'm way more productive at home than I would be going in. I've got my setup. Mike, how are you feeling about your at-home work?
I go back and forth. You could ask me this question every week, and I think I would, depending on how my week went, answer a different way. Yeah, I am more productive, but at the same time, there are still a lot of my conversations where I'm like, I just wish we could be in front of a whiteboard right now, back in a meeting room. We could have this hammered out. My buddy across the hall is who I'm working with. Grab him. Let's go grab a whiteboard. I don't want to sit here and schedule a meeting with you, open up it's good and it's bad, right? So there's give and there's take. I am extremely excited, I'll just say this, to get back in the office. Like, I cannot wait. I am not someone who would want this to last forever. I might be more productive in some ways, but I can't stand it anymore. I'm kind of going a little crazy at this point, to be honest. I was good for a long time. And when my kids went back to school, I was even better. And now I'm getting to the point again where I'm like, I just need to be back in the office. I need to be with my people, having the conversations across the water cooler about work, about whatever. And that's for my sanity. I think I am not good at being alone. So I'm losing productivity the longer this goes on.
Nathaniel,
I think that's interesting. Yeah, no, I'm in 4 days a week. I take Thursdays to work from home, and partly it's to a chance to catch my breath. And then I usually have a longer webinar or meeting. Today I had a 3-hour meeting online. So, it's easier to do that here, but I really have to be in the office to help support my team. Yeah. It's hard to be a supervisor, and not present. So it's a mix. I don't think I could do all work from home with this type of job. But having 1 day a week to be kind of focused and a little bit more in control of my time, a little bit, it helps. But I totally understand Mike's point of there's a lot to be said about the spontaneity of like, get a couple people, stand around a table, talk through a problem, 5-10 minutes, you're done, instead of the formality of scheduling a time or trying to interrupt. And it's hard.
And that being said, today I had a problem and I started an email in the morning. I had a call-in meeting with a quick team to say, okay, this is exactly what the problem is. Everybody understood. Then during the day, emails and a few team conversations that went on. Then we literally went team by team troubleshooting. Like they have gotten our technology team has gotten to this point where they start putting like things in the header of the email and the subject line, so they can track where that email has gone, what version of the email is. And then so they're sending these things, and it's like, this is 1. Okay, this is 1A. This one's 2 because it's a branch. It's almost like they would do in coding if they would branch the code so that they know where these emails are going. And then at the end of the day, we pulled it all back together and had this quick conversation online. Like, okay, here's what we found out. Here's what we're going to do. That would have been a week process if we were in person.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it would have. We would have actually been, because we meet more. This is the thing. When we're in person, we're meeting all the time. The being home, we meet less. We meet faster. And so, because, meetings, we're a super social company. And so we get to meetings and we're in them for an hour,
Yeah.
Now you're online, it's 20 minutes. Like, okay, that's good. I got to go. Like, I got other things I need to do. And you get off the line. Right. And so that has worked particularly well for us. Nathaniel, as you think about, has this changed some processes? Maybe let's think for the better. Has there been any things where this has improved, or you've seen some opportunities for improvement in some things where maybe unintended, maybe intended, things maybe got better, or better opportunities?
I think it just depends on the job type.
Okay.
So some people on my team have a type of job where sitting alone for 2 hours and working through a problem is exactly what they need to be most efficient. And having the distractions of other people and interruptions kills their productivity. Whereas others, their job is to be interrupted. As part of my role is I'm here to be interrupted and to be available for questions and things that come up. So I think that's part of that. With teaching in the classroom, I think it depends a lot, again, on the subject area. It's really hard for remote learning for youngest students. The attention span and the complexity, and the teachers that are successful with that are the ones who are very clear about what's expected, when, what to do. And so my daughter's successful with that in 5th grade because her teacher is very, very structured. And Brian mentioned in the chat, it's not just for kids, but it's for adults too. The more routine and structure you have, the easier it is to maintain that sort of productivity. But on the flip side, the teachers that are more of I'm just winging it, I can figure it out, I've done this a long time, they're having a harder time because it doesn't work that way anymore. We don't have a good 50 minutes to kind of feel how the discussion is going and get through a class period, and so I think it just really depends a lot.
Yeah.
One of the things we're seeing is some of the students are distance learning and some are hybrid, but some of the teachers are trying to teach both distance learning students and hybrid teacher and in class students at the same time, especially in secondary. So the challenge is, if I'm an in-class teacher and 2/3 of my students are in the room, or half, and another chunk are out of the room, how do I develop lessons for both audiences?
Yeah.
And my prediction is that one of them is going to suffer. Yeah. And so we're seeing some students and families that are doing hybrid through the beginning of the year saying, you know what, this isn't working. We're going to switch to distance learning. And because if they're going to class and they're doing a lot of self-guided work, watching videos, and they're not having the same level of discussion or labs and things, then why do they need to be there and take the risk and wear a mask all day? So it'll be really interesting to see over time what the ebb and flow or the preference of students and families is, depending on the teaching model.
Yeah.
But
Mike, I cut you off a second ago. Do you want to add anything there?
No, I mean, really the only thing I was going to say is I think from the people I've talked to who are my age, and it's interesting, I'd be interested to see the educational side of this. We've almost been doing this so long that a lot of us we're starting to revert back to our old at-home habits. So meaning distractions are a lot more now. Like, I'm finding it really hard to not get distracted by things around the house. That when we were first into this, it was new, it was fresh. Like it was in your brain to not get distracted by things, to work from home 100% of the time, like almost do what you were doing in the office at home. And we were just talking last week, it's just getting harder and harder to stay with that mentality of I'm working, I'm home. Like, it's almost been too long now that the newness of it and the novelty of it has kind of worn off. So a lot of our brains for us have been like, man, it's a lot harder for me to not turn on the ham radio. Like, I got 10 minutes real quick. Just let me switch on. Or, do this little laundry real quick, and it take longer than it should, right? Like, there's fine with taking breaks, like for sure. Like, I would have gone up at work and gone and talked to someone. So taking that 10 minutes to swap a load of laundry, I think that's fine, but it's getting harder and harder. And I don't know if anyone else has seen that, or if the kids at school now, they did this all last spring. So are they starting to get sick and tired of it? Are they still finding it kind of new and interesting? I mean, where are the kids at with their kind of mentality on this?
I think a lot of it depends on the kids.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And some kids, like I think I mentioned in the spring, some kids thrived in the spring because they had more control over their environment.
Yeah.
They were willing to participate in class because they had that safe virtual space. They could private message the teacher. They could raise their hand without feeling like everyone's looking at me.
Right.
Some kids have done really well in in-person class because the numbers have been smaller. So I have an anecdote from a foreign language teacher who was in early weeks of school doing an introductory thing. Okay, each person's going to get up and do a poem in Spanish or something. And this teacher relayed, like, I know this kid, and they would have never, ever stood up and done that request when we had 28 students in the classroom, 30 in the classroom. But when we had 15, the student felt comfortable. They felt safe. So I think that's more a testament of like small numbers make a difference.
Yeah, right.
More than online learning, but those kids did really well. And other kids do well remote. So I really hope that long-term we start to figure out, can we offer both in a more predictable, structured way for the students and for the teachers? Some teachers are crazy good at distance learning and developing online materials and feedback loops and things, and they do really well. And then that's not to say they don't do well in the class, but some are better at it than others.
So with the exception of the teachers, how about like the technology staff who aren't directly responsible with the kids? Are they in the office, out of the office, and like how have they been mentally with
most of them are in the office.
Okay.
Some are remote. We prefer them to be in the office because it's easier to communicate, easier to do problems. But for other reasons, some are working remote, and because their job allows it. Right. So if we get a request of like, oh, I want to work remote all the time, we have to look at what the job duties are and try to predict, like, is that really possible? Yeah. You know, if you're the one who fixes the projectors and, you know, maintains this Chromebooks, that probably is not going to be really easy to do from home, kind of thing. So it depends, but I think over time we'll start to feel a groove of like, okay, these roles make sense. This kind of structure makes sense and is manageable. So I'm hopeful that will take hold over time, and to say, what can education, what can schooling look like for kids? And how do we meet their needs even better than we did before, when everyone was just required to come to school?
A couple really good comments in the chat room. So let me cover those. Alex had said that he changed his son's Chromebook to single sign-on versus the spring, having to sign on to each app and each website. Everything just signs in automatically, and other apps that he has to use. And what a great idea I have a big, long, complex password, and enabling some things to kind of help me with that. When I was at work, it just logs in all the time because I'm behind the firewall. But when I'm on the other side of the firewall, I have to authenticate everything. And so having some of those things help me, getting Windows Hello, which was super helpful. Now it's a pin in my face instead of a big, long, complex password. That made that super easy. Other Jim had said we opened up a virtual help desk so users can drop in via Zoom. Nathaniel, have you guys, from a help perspective, is it phone? Is it video? How are you guys handling that?
Yeah, no, I messaged other Jim and I said, I'd like to do that, because we do phone and we do email. So when we opened it up, our email system, our ticketing system, to parents and families, they can email support and get in the system, and then we can distribute the ticket to the right person. That's helped out a lot for tracking, because if we had just an email inbox, it would be a nightmare trying to pick and choose who's doing what. But we have the phone open, and then families can call. And we had extended hours in the spring and extended hours at the start of the year, but it's sort of tapered down. Now we're just 7 to 4, and that's worked out real well. And I find it more effective to talk to a parent and help them, or a student. We have high schoolers and middle schoolers calling us, and I love it because they're practicing using the phone,
Yeah, not texting.
which they don't do. And
No,
so
no.
Something they've never had to do before.
Talk to
yeah,
someone.
so sometimes you can catch right away, like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to change my enunciation, my pace so that they're feeling comfortable, and I can prompt them with questions without sounding like, a jerk.
Yeah.
And sometimes you hear the mom in the background be like, tell them your name, tell them what grade you're in. Tell 'em. And so it's great, but it's effective on the phone because we can ask them the questions to get to the root of the problem. Whereas we'll get an email that says, my son's Chromebook doesn't work.
Right.
And we're like, okay,
Right.
what's your son's name?
Yeah.
What school do they go to? So I like the idea of a virtual option because a lot of times I've been on the phone and I want to say, well, I'll send you a link, but I don't have their email address and I don't want to type it. And to be able to say, go to help.school.org and click on the chat button and there's people there to answer the chat or a video call. I like that idea. So
I've gone that route,
interested.
Nathaniel. When I get customers who it's complex, I'm like, I'm just going to send you a Zoom link. Yeah, you got 20 minutes so we can troubleshoot this via Zoom because it's so powerful to be able to share screens and to be able to show them or drop it in chat. 10 years of podcasting have got me ready to help people this way, to just be like, hey, here it is. Let me show you how to do it. Let me walk you through it. It's so much easier.
Well, we do screen sharing. So a lot of times we're on the phone. I'll be like, okay, go to this site. We use Splashtop for Business, SOS. It's got a lot of tools, but this is a real easy one that works on Mac and Windows and iPad. And that's almost all of our calls are those kind of things. And then with the Chromebooks, they have a built-in Chrome remote desktop support tool, which has been really reliable. And I'm actually impressed with how easy it's been to connect in, because a lot of times the problems that students will have is related to the junk in their account, not the hardware. So cookies are turned off or pop-ups are blocked or there's too many extensions. And so a lot of times it's like, we need to clear your cache out, clear your cookies. We do have the ability to send with the Google console, we can send a remote restart, which clears out the local cache and resets some stuff without resetting the whole operating system. And that's helped a lot because sometimes kids will go for a week without restarting, and just doing that has helped some problems. So we have some of those, but the missing piece is that virtual help desk, immediate communication chat with families outside.
I would always be interested. I wonder, okay, so I know you guys don't use probably video when you're doing like a Zoom call. I bet people are a lot less angry. It's really hard to be angry with someone when you can see their face. Yeah. Like then you're yelling at them in person. You're no longer just yelling over the phone. I bet it would calm people down just a little bit if they're getting angry. If I can see your face, like Nathaniel, if you and I are on the phone, I might be able to get mad at you. But right now, look at that smile. I can't get mad at you when I see that, right?
Well, a lot of times when they call me,
see, now I get mad at you again. Yeah. Oh, there you go.
And so I'll do that. I'm like, okay, let's try to do a hangout. Let's try to do a meet. Let's see if we can get it going. And I'll give them a code and they'll be like, oh, hi. And I'm sitting here in the office and I got a mask on, which makes it hard to articulate. And they're like, okay, I guess it's working. And so that's been kind of fun. I do like helping people. That's part of why I'm in the job and getting them through it. And a lot of times it's explaining what's going on. Oh, I didn't know we could do that. Oh, I didn't know we had that, and so I wish we had more time. Every phone call I do is like 15 to 20 minutes, at least, even if it's a quick fix, and it's good. We are there to help the families. We're there to help the kids. It's just not what we did a year ago. And so getting that shift in what our expectations of support is it's getting there. I think we'll look back at this and be like, wow, we really did a lot.
Yeah. Do you think like Google and in this space will innovate as well as they're getting feedback from, now that districts are doing this? Don't you think by next spring they start rolling some things out to help you guys or maybe even
right
sooner?
now? They're doing it right now. So they've made some improvements to Google Meet, which is our primary video conferencing tool. They're listening to education and teachers about what they need. Breakout rooms is one of the big requests that's coming. They have Q&As and polls built in. Now they're giving some moderator controls to the organizers so that they can say everyone that clicks the link can join automatically, or everyone has to knock, request to get in. So they're doing that. The complaint I have is that there's still some inconsistencies about who's the organizer, and you can only have one organizer. So I think in Zoom, you can say, okay, Mike's the organizer, but he's got to leave. So he's passing the organizer role to Jim.
You can have a co-host.
Yeah,
you
co-host. I can't do that yet. That would be
Zoom
really
is
good.
really far ahead on this. Like they had it all. They weren't secure. It was open source. I mean, it was open to everybody, but they had all the functionality built in. They've had to lock it down, where a Google or even Microsoft Teams, which wasn't completely ready for this. Like they were close. But Teams was a 4x4 screen, and it didn't have breakout rooms and some of those kinds of things. It'll only handle small sizes. So go ahead, Nathaniel.
Teams is getting better.
And
they're adding features. They got breakout rooms on the roadmap too. Yeah, right. And we have Teams, but we haven't rolled it out to staff because we're like, let's not give them too much to, complicate things right now. So we focus on Google Meet. We didn't purchase the enterprise for Zoom, and there are a lot of angry teachers that we didn't buy Zoom. There's angry teachers that we didn't buy Schoology conferences. There's, because everyone's got their favorite flavor of like, this is the way I like to do conferences. And in my role, I've got to have, 4 different conferencing apps on my computer, because depending who I meet with, it could be Cisco or GoToMeeting or whatever. But we're trying to keep it simple and keep our training around fewer products. But I often think like, man, if Teams could do this, maybe that would help solve their problem or meet that need. But we'll see.
I found Teams to be really useful, but only if you need the integration with the chat side of it, really, right? Like I probably don't even utilize 90% of the features of Teams, but it's our chat, and then, hey, can we just jump on video real quick? Can I ask you a question? Sure. And it's like, we use it for all of our meetings, internal meetings. We rarely use it external. We still have Zoom for that, but all of our internal meetings are basically Zoom. So like I said, there's SharePoint features, there's files, there's the teams. Like when you're on a team in Teams, all those features are a little bit wonky, I think, still maybe not clearly defined from a user standpoint, but it works pretty well. I just, I can't see kids using it though. It's not the most user-friendly interface for a child.
Yeah, and Microsoft wants to get in that education space, so built into Teams is like classrooms. And
is there really?
Yeah, at least in our edition, and like you, my department uses Teams constantly all day.
Right.
I don't know people's phone numbers because I just call them on Teams.
Yep.
And because you can have the mobile app or the desktop or the web, we love it for that. And my wife's company, they've been rolling out Teams, and they're starting to build in file structure and table of contents. And there's all these features in Teams that as a business, they're using, to build out a knowledge base kind of thing inside Teams. And they have different channels depending on clients and this and that. And it's pretty amazing what you can do with it.
We do too.
But it takes, some time and effort and design to build it out that way. But for our needs in the school, we just need the quick video. We need them there. Now we've got tile view and Meet, so you can spread all your kids out, helping teachers learn that you can make 2 windows, one with your Meet and you can see all your kids, and another window with your presentation, and can you do full window and not full screen. So it's just little tricks and tips like that that take time to roll out. Even if we had the perfect instruction guide on how to do everything at the beginning of the year, it would have been too much.
Right.
Yeah, you got to ease into it.
Right.
We've had to learn a lot of these things too. And there's been rollouts for us as far as, having additional features. I really do like document sharing, and we've been doing a lot of Excel spreadsheet sharing quickly to say, hey, I'm just going to share this spreadsheet with you. If I update it and you update it at the same time, we're okay. We can be in there doing this. And then when you're done, you just kind of let it go. Like it doesn't have to live anywhere. We've got some data retention policies that are going to take care of those. Eventually, they'll just disappear. And so you can do some scratch work. Like, hey, I've got this list of email addresses that I need to get handled right now. Okay, I'm going to start working on these. I'll grab these from you, or I'm going to share it with you, And so Teams has been good for that, where Zoom early on, you just wouldn't, you'd never put a file in Zoom. And for the longest time, you couldn't even share a link in Zoom. It didn't work. links didn't work. We just whatever version we just moved to, they just allowed that. So, regardless of the platform, and Andrew had said in the chat room, let me see if we can find that because it was a good one. Skype blew a 20-year lead.
Yeah.
And, you think about this, and another Microsoft product that sat out there for a long time, it had well, to be honest, it didn't have all this stuff that's in it, but it think about it. Like, it was out there for the longest time. And then who comes along and is the leader? Zoom. So
what I find fascinating is Skype is being, pushed aside by Microsoft. And yet on the Outlook app on my phone, when I create a new meeting event, it says, do you want to make this a Skype one? And I'm like,
yeah.
Why is the Outlook app not have Teams in it?
Right.
No, I don't want Skype.
Yeah,
and then I got a default install and Skype loads up every time I restart my computer. I'm like confused. The two teams aren't talking to each other. Or whatever.
Skype and Skype for Business. And then of course that moved on to Teams. So there's confusion there.
Now I will say though, with Teams, one more thing is my oldest son, he's in a technical school in Minneapolis, and they're all Office 365. So all his meetings are on Teams, and Teams does a good job of broadcasting. All his classes are online. So as a post-secondary, he attends. He says some of them, the instructor's a little slow sometimes, so they record and release it. So he'll rewatch it at 1.5 speed to kind of catch up on the materials. And I figure it's a really good strategy because then he can hear it the first time, taking it in, then watch it again, pause and start again to capture some of that information. But they have a very good success, but they're kind of like all in Office 365. So they're staying within one environment. It's working for them.
Well, and Microsoft's had some trouble this week and last with their Office 365 staying up.
Yes, they did.
Everybody's had trouble these last 2 weeks.
last
week, Schoology had a big one. Was it yesterday? A two for Microsoft, right?
Yeah. You think they're getting attacked?
Well,
I think it's just load.
Attacked, right? Like that, their outage was worldwide, right? I mean, I was working on a legal document and I couldn't open it and save it because OneDrive was down. Then I couldn't Teams anyone about it because Teams was down. I couldn't email anyone. Like our entire suite was offline, and I'm like, this is weird. And we have a policy because of our industry. We can't text, so I can't text people about work because it can't be monitored. And so I was like, what do I do? I literally have no idea what to do. They have to be attacked that big of an outage, right? I mean, you would think if it was usage, it would be regions or certain sectors would fall offline, but man, it's something.
It wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there was. I mean, there's just massive disruptions going on right now.
Yeah,
a month before a major election. I mean, listen, we used to do this to other countries. Now they're doing it to us. So, it's too coincidental that it's happening to all of the big players all at the same time.
Yeah,
and my attitude is I'm kind of not getting worked up about it anymore.
Yeah.
We used to panic like, oh my gosh, Google Drive is down. Nobody can do anything. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a walk. It's like having a fire drill. Come back in a little bit. It'll be back on. No, if it's out for a day, then we're in trouble.
Right.
But the companies seem to be pretty good about rolling back changes or fixing it because they know everyone's depending on it. So I think it's all right.
Mike, you had mentioned, you mentioned earlier about being more distracted, as time has gone on. And it's been the opposite for me, which is amazing, is that I've gotten more laser focused in the last 6 weeks at home. So much so I was doing a great job of working out. Like I used to go out and I'd move the water on the lawn. I'd do a little mini workout. I'd come back in and do an hour's worth of work. And I just repeat that throughout the day. And I was fit and I'd lost some weight. I was feeling good. I have been so laser focused on work over the last 6 weeks, just at home again, with the whole NASA setup that I have here, like 8 monitors and all this stuff, that I'm kind of dialed in and I'm having a hard time getting away from it. I worked till almost 6 tonight. Wow. Just had some things I needed to wrap up. I was kind of in the zone. I wanted to get some things done. We made some changes that I wanted to take advantage of. So for me, it's been like, they're wanting us to come back in, and I'm sometimes telling my boss, I'm like, here's a little secret. I'm a million times more productive at home. Like that's just what it's turned out. Now, will it be that way forever? And is it great for my health? Probably not. I
Right.
probably need to make some changes to get back to a little more fitness, get back to a little more balance. I don't hate it, by the way. I got done at the end of the day today, and I'm like, man, I freaking crushed it today. And that feels good when you have a day and you get a lot of stuff done. Nathaniel, I imagine when you get a day and you have some wins, right?
Yeah.
You help some people, you get some things going, you figure some things out. That feels good, right?
Crossing stuff off the list. I'm a list maker.
Yeah.
Always writing stuff down. Like, okay, these are the 6 things. And then I get 2 done. I'm like, well, at least I got 2.
Well, and I'm a similar boat to you now. I've gone kind of, I have a hybrid role of podcasting and customer support. And so when I wake up in the morning, I have a handful of things that have come in from Europe and a little bit of Asia overnight. So I need to handle those right away. And so I start sending off emails and start working some things and try to contact some people if I can or whatever. And there's a rush between like 7:30 and 10 of trying to get those things knocked out. And if I'm good, they're done. And then I can do some of my work, right? And then in the afternoon, you know how this goes. Things start kind of wrapping up and that's when they start calling back in again. And so I see a kind of an afternoon of, meetings are over or whatever, and people are trying to get some work done. Do you guys have busy and slow patterns that go throughout the day?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the start of the day is always the busiest time. And that's where mysteriously things that worked yesterday are now broken for no reason. And so we're real busy in the morning. And then it is just like that, where it's after lunch, things are quiet. And then usually around 2:33, that's when either things start to blow up bad or like there's problems, or in my case, I start to feel productive because now I'm getting to focus on some of the project type work. And I'm like, all right, it's 3:00. Now I'm getting to this thing that I've been putting off and couldn't get to. And then, I can't stay here. So we have that dip too. And if you look at, if you look at the analytics on printing throughout the day, it's always like, woo, and then slows down. And it's very similar.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I do find I've got some late friends who will take a meeting at 5:00. Where, not everybody would do that before. And now you're like, hey, can we just meet at 5? Because that clears it's like clear of the day. And because it's at 5, we try to meet for as quick as possible. It's kind of like, let's get in and let's get this thing done. So we picked up some efficiencies, and then, okay, well, there's times I had a new Patreon subscriber that I needed to mail one of the badges to. And so Monday morning, I wanted to make sure that thing got out first. Our post office down here is open at 9. So, 8:55, wrap some things up, head down. So you get a little bit more freedom that way. And don't get me wrong, I've wanted to. I haven't done it yet, but I wanted to mow the lawn in the middle of the day as well, where, maybe like at lunch, get out there and, get the lawn mowed. So it does give us some freedom. So Nathaniel, anything else along those lines? I want to talk about that light that you have, but anything else along those lines that we might have missed that you want to update us on?
Yeah. Okay. Ask me in 6 months.
Yeah. Well, we'll have you back on in 6 months for sure.
So the big difference I was thinking through it is in the spring, everybody was in like panic mode. Like, oh my gosh, we have to all be remote and we've never done this before and get this fixed and do this and do this. And the teachers are learning, but there was a light at the end of the tunnel. The end of the school year was coming. We'd already had relationships between teachers and students, so they knew each other. And it was like, let's get through this together. Starting the year, going into winter, that's a different mindset. So we've had time to kind of regroup, rest, come back to it, change some structure, build out some skills and tools. But this is going to be a long year. And as things get colder, we can't have band practice outside. We can't have lunch outside and recess recess is fine, but it's going to get difficult as it gets darker and colder. And it's not just schools. Everybody is like, well, I can't go to my favorite restaurant and sit on the patio in January.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting. The sustainability and the ability to like, okay, how do we pace ourselves as an organization to get through this without burning out our teachers, burning out our kids, burning out the staff? How do we set expectations that are reasonable to get through the winter? So
I hadn't even thought about that yet. I kind of got depressed.
Sorry,
I was like, oh,
that's like kind of
I didn't
my
think about the
downer
winter.
note.
We're not going to be able to sit outside. Okay. Oh man.
Well, a lot of people are buying fire pits patio
Yeah.
heaters, all that kind of stuff.
I
I
got one
ordered
of
a
those.
solo stove, those
Oh,
ones you see on
good.
Facebook, and
Nice.
like,
Ooh.
I don't
Yeah.
know what-
Well, you'll have to check in and tell me how well that works. That maybe during the meet up,
yeah.
you could.
Yeah, when's the meet up? Is that early
So-
November?
No, October 24th.
Yeah, might be here.
Yeah.
They're back ordered, so
Okay. Okay, yeah,
All
that'd
right.
be good. Yeah, because fire pits could work too. I mean, we could
Yeah.
fire pits at the same time. That would be super cool. I tell you what saved me is I have virtual happy hours with guys, and so every Friday and on the weekends with Ed Sullivan, I get out on the deck. I take my laptop out on the deck, so much so that I installed the new power outlet out on my deck, so I could plug my laptop in, which will be great for the meetup. And those regular weekly kind of connects, not work. This isn't a work thing. This is, grabbing a beer, cigar, whatever, and having an hour-long conversation that's just kind of connecting with somebody. I normally do it in the office, but that's not happening. So that's been good. And both of these guys are outside of my network, so it's not like I work with them all day and then we're doing this. It's kind of it's a safe for me to go, right? So I think that's been, and of course this show, which continues to be normal. Like, I mean, think about it. We've been able to
hasn't
stay
really changed.
normal. No, we've been able to stay normal through all this. So, well, I mean, we're not. Mike's not normal, and I'm not normal, but everybody else is on that. Okay,
Mike's
Nathaniel.
level of obsession with like deep diving into something, it just amazes me.
It's incredible, isn't it? He can go farther.
It's not a
and-
good thing.
I don't know how that brain works, but it's not like mine. I thought I got into things, but that's another level.
It's bad. It's like ADD. It doesn't work out well for me. Maybe that's why I get distracted at work. Maybe that's why I need to be back in the office. Because
Well, but Mike, you really learn it inside and out. Like I have benefited from your willingness to figure it all. I mean, you got it all figured out by the time I say yes to it. And then you were like, when we were doing Bitcoin stuff together, you were like, okay, do this and this and this and this. And I'm like, this is great. Like, I don't have to figure any of this stuff out.
so are you saying there's a chance to get you into ham radio? I mean,
There's a chance. There's always a chance.
All right.
know? Yeah. There's always a chance. What we've learned, and I think we're kind of through this, Nathaniel, to be honest, but lighting matters when it comes to this kind of communication. And early on in the pandemic, everybody was dark and it was terrible. And so I've watched my own coworkers rearrange, like they're starting to figure it out, and they've rearranged their desks and where they sit to get that forward facing light. I've said all the time, get some natural light or some forward facing light on you. And so just today I was on a call with a bunch of my, the folks that I work with, and they all looked good. Like every single one of them looked good. And I was like, this wasn't this way in March, right?
Yeah.
Some of that's lighting, and you found a cool little gadget that might help with that.
Yeah, I agree with you, and sound and light are important. And so one thing we did for our teachers is we bought a lot of USB headsets that didn't make it perfect, but made it way better than just using what's built in. And sound is important for the students to hear what the teacher's saying, whether it's a screencast or something, and it'll make it less tiresome. So lighting is another good thing. And so I found this portable light, and this is a battery operated little one. I hold it like this, and it can change the brightness and it can change the color temperature, and it just has a little USB port for charging, and it fits nicely if you want. Let's see, where did I put it? In a cell phone tripod. So
good idea.
the Gorilla Pods and stuff. So you can put it in, turn it off, a tripod so that you can mount it easily above a lamp or on back of something. And this makes just a fill. You know how the photographers will have a side light that kind of fills from the side? That's what I use it for. And so that's nice. The other that you can get if you need, if you're in a basement that has that dark wood paneling. Sorry, the basement with the dark wood paneling, every 70s basement, it's only 7.5 feet tall. Is you can get one of these light bars, an LED light bar that's also battery, or it can be plugged in, and you can mount that up or put it on a stand. And then this throws off a fair amount of light too. just to fill in what you don't get from a table lamp. So that was kind of a pretty cheap, pretty easy way to supplement.
Those light bars are 20, and the very first one you showed us is like 40.
And that's a really good deal for the size. I've always struggled to find something that small that looks like it gets pretty bright.
And this is like 28% power, so
Really?
you can adjust how bright and what the color temp is. And then because it's light, I just am setting it here up on top of a lamp, off to the side.
Yeah, I think it's a great. I have, I bought some. Well, I shouldn't say it. Dave McCabe back in the day gifted me at Christmas these Cowboy Studio lights that because I'm in the basement, I've actually mounted to the ceiling. So instead of having them down here, they're mounted with, just mounted to the ceiling. I don't need to explain why. It's just there. And then pointed down at me. And so that's always given me some light. But not everybody has that kind of space. And so, Nathaniel, you 2 of those on either side pointed at you, or 2 of those light bars. I mean, at $20 each, $40, and you're in pretty good shape, right? You could have those off to the side pointing at you, right? And that'd give you pretty good.
That's almost a little too bright.
Too much. You want to diffuse that a little bit.
But if I had
more.
It farther back.
You adjust the light bar?
This one just does low and high, but I can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
So you get what you pay for. Is what
these aren't exactly sophisticated, but
you get for $20. You get what you pay for.
You said you've been able to set up your space, and you've been doing it for podcasting for almost 10 years. Is that right?
10. Yeah.
But my wife's been working from home since March, and we finally got her an actual desk and set it up with a docking station and a proper thing. And I got flipped. I used to be on that side, and I moved over here because I'm not here very often. So we're both in this small office. But for her, getting a formal space, this is where I work. It's separate from the dining room. It's separate from everything else, has made a big difference for that sort of mindset of, I'm at work. I can close a door. That's huge for us and for kids to be able to have their own space. My daughter has a little desk in her bedroom. She'll do her meet in there when she's, on a call, and she can use headset or not, but there's a door to close. So having a space that's sort of dedicated for this type of work, if you want to call it, is really helpful for that sort of mindset of, focus.
Yeah. Well, I think it needs to be comfortable too. I was early in the pandemic. I was struggling to see some things, like physically see. I didn't have the resolution. It was different. I brought my office equipment home, but the distance that I was from the monitors was different. And so the resolutions that I had in the office didn't work at home. The laptop that I had wasn't bright enough in some cases. And the angles were all wrong. And I was constantly doing this, to get in the bifocals or in the trifocals on mine I was constantly having to have my head up. Well, you do that all day. All of a sudden you're like, oh my God, right? It's got to be comfortable. And so it took me too long to get to this point. But what I started doing is looking at every monitor and saying, do my eyes hurt when I look at this? Right. And if it feels good, it's right, regardless of what the recommended settings are. If it feels good, if I'm not getting a headache, if I'm comfortable with it, that is right. And then I went through everything and set it to that. So now no matter what monitor I'm looking at, based on what I'm using it for, I've got it set exactly to the right resolution where my eyes like to look at it. And it's amazing what that does for your productivity,
So do you think you adjust the resolution, or do you adjust the text size, or what does Microsoft call it, where it's like 125% scale?
Sometimes both, to be honest. So sometimes I'll go in like on the laptop and it may take a combination of both. In other words, on a web page, the way the web page is set up, even though I might have 125 or 150% of that turned on, I'm going to either cram the web page down or blow it up in Chrome so that the icons or the characters get to the right size for my eyes based on the distance that I'm looking at them at, right? Because that's key. I sit here. I also sit here for work. This is the work mode. This is podcasting mode. these are set differently than these because they're at a different length, eyesight length. When I figured that out, productivity shot through the roof. Because before I was, about every 45 minutes, I was like, and I didn't want to work. I was like getting physically frustrated. And now that I can see clearly, it's like, oh, wow, I could look at this all day. So I think that's key too, is getting your work environment set right for you. Right. Mike, you're like me. We're always moving things around to get them just perfect. You probably spent a lot of time doing that too.
So my problem was I actually got told by one of our clients that my background down here was very unprofessional. And I agree, right? Like, this is a workshop area. It's nothing professional. So I ended up just putting a desk up in our bedroom, and you can't tell it's our bedroom because of the angle of the camera. I got it set up, and that's just where I ended up. It's kind of nice though, because I'm right in front of the window upstairs. I'm no longer in the dungeon of the basement. Right. So I can even open up the window, have the nice air. And then if I don't I'm in meetings like probably 75% of my day. And when I'm not, then I'll try and go sit on the back patio. And I'll just sit when I'm trying to crank out. Oh, we forgot to press the button.
Focus.
Okay, keep talking.
So I go to the backyard because, man, I have found, Jim, that, we talked about struggling to focus on things. And I have found that the one place where I can focus is my backyard. If I'm sitting on that back patio, that's not where any of my distractions are. There's no laundry. There's no, not that I do. I gotta stop using laundry as an example. My wife's going to kill me because I don't do any of the laundry.
Michael,
but, things like
you don't do any laundry, Michael.
Yeah. The dishes, the other computers, the ham radio, the iPads, everything like that, where I can go sit back there and I can get a bunch of stuff done. I'll just sit there, put the laptop on my lap and turn on some music from the speakers and crank it away there.
See, and I couldn't be any less productive outside. I get outside and I just lose my mind outside. It's just too beautiful, too many things to look at. Nathaniel, do you have a spot? Like, if you were to think, where am I the most productive? What's that for you?
Yeah, it depends. Probably in my desk at work. Yeah, it's a little less crowded than here. I've got the screen set up on a Visa mount the way I like. Yeah, I've got things like yours set up, things where they're within arm's reach. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, if there's nobody there, then it's like super productivity mode. But yeah, and then here, I tinker on projects around the house and do things, and then it doesn't matter. Sometimes I'll be upstairs, sometimes downstairs. Yeah. So it just depends. I did buy some blue light glasses so that if I'm working late in the evening, I wear these. I don't normally wear glasses at all, but I've been wearing these just to see if that helps reduce some of the fatigue. Yeah. But I don't wear them all the time, so it's hard to say whether it makes a difference or not. But yeah, I thought, well, that's an easy thing to add and try.
It's a good idea.
And I agree with you. I should have said my work desk at work is where I am most productive, and I need to get back there. Yeah. And honestly, I think they're to the point where you can just come in. They used to say if you need to have a reason to. I'm sure they'd be fine if I went back and worked there. But okay, then let's be 100% honest. There are some really nice aspects of it, right? Like, am I the most productive? No, but man, it is nice to be able to get some stuff done. Like you said, Jim, right? If you need to run somewhere real quick, do one quick thing. It is no big deal. The few times like my oldest has forgot his lunch, I need to take it to school. No one's even noticed. It's not that awkward. Like, hey, sorry, I got to run to my boy's school real quick. I'll be right back. I promise. No one even knows, right? Because I have Teams on my phone. Right. I can answer calls and everything. They would have no idea where I was at. I could be in Bora Bora and they would have no idea.
The difference with that though, Mike, is I'm a big video guy, and so I ping my coworkers, and they're doing that, and I'm like, "Hey, jump on video," and they're like, "Oh, I'm out, I'm on the road, or I'm dropping the kids off, or whatever." Yeah, and so I've noticed because I'm insistent, and I'm one of the few. I think I'm insistent. Every meeting has video. Like I want to see your face. And some, I can tell some of my coworkers are not necessarily at their desk, or whatever.
Well, I think, and we had that same thing. I think what set the tone was our boss was doing the same thing. One time he was in the kitchen filling up his coffee and then grabbing a sandwich while he was Teams videoing it. He's like, I don't. I mean, you guys are gonna be up doing.
Yeah.
One time he was in his car. He's like, "Oh, I gotta go I gotta get my birth certificate for my daughter, or something like that, for the hospital." Like, he set the standard that you can be on Teams for video. You don't need to be sitting at the perfect spot. I don't care. He goes, "We're really just talking internally about stuff." So I think when he set that tone, I've answered my Teams from anywhere because I know he's not going to care.
Right on.
What he cares about is I'm going to answer.
Right? Can you get there?
Set the sleep mode on Teams though. Set it to like not ping you between certain hours.
I do. Yep.
That's a nice feature on the phone. It's like, nope, it's not going to make noise before 7 a.m.
Do not disturb on the iPhone is becoming more and more necessary. I have found.
I have no alerts turned on. My phone makes no noise at any time during the day. So at night, never. Nope. Yeah, I don't use alerts that way. It's just different for me. So
how do you get a Teams call?
It buzzes. Well, it'll buzz on my watch.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah. So I guess that's how I'm doing it, but I'm not wearing my watch at night. So I guess that's my do not disturb is when my watch goes on the charger at night right before I go to bed. It's off because my phone is off. Nobody's getting a hold of me. Mike, you have an
iPhone user. Nathaniel, what are you using are you using an iPhone or in the Google space?
Yeah, I have an iPhone.
They did a lot of cool updates with the sleep and everything. The whole process of setting that up is kind of cool. I actually stumbled into it in iOS 14. Have you set that up yet? Where you try to tell it when you go to bed, when you wake up, it automatically does the do not disturb. It tells you, hey, you should stop looking at your phone now because it's time to go to bed. I'm like, oh, and the reminder has been nice because I've been like, oh yeah, you're right. It's almost like a guilt trip. Like, okay, fine, I'll set down my phone. You're right. It's starting to get close to that time. And then it does an automatic alarm for you in the morning, and it kind of soothes you into waking up. And this is all built into iOS, which is, I know there's a lot of apps that people have used. So I don't know. I had never looked into this. I had never used a sleep tracker app or a sleep setup app. It's been kind of fun because now I wear my watch at night because it's built into the watch too. Obviously it's do not disturb turned on automatically, so I don't care. It's just nicely wakes you up. It's interesting.
Yeah, I haven't upgraded to iOS 14 yet. I was waiting till like a few more 0.1, 0.2 updates because things are working and like Jim says, I just want my phone to work. I don't want it to have problems, so I'll be patient. But I am curious about some of that stuff. Making it a little easier. I've kind of stepped away from sleep tracking and Fitbit and activity and just kind of taking a pause on all that. And I still wear a watch during the day, but I take it off at night. And it's a sort of a self-preservation.
Yeah.
The fewer distractions in my world lets me get through the day and focus on more important things. So I haven't really opened Facebook in 2-3 weeks. And what we've done with some of my family is we've converted to using an iPhoto shared album. So we just once every while there's a cute picture of a cousin or a nephew, we just put it in there and then people get it, but we're not going on Facebook and seeing the posts and garbage. And it's sort of, we want to share these moments and these things, but not through that tool.
That's okay. That's a use case. It's so funny you say that because I've never thought of it in that way before. And honestly, when you do add the photo to the shared photo albums, it gives you that pop-up like you're going to write a post almost about it. I never got that because in our family, we've always set up like, hey, we're all going to Lake of the Ozarks. We're going to set up a shared album so that we can just gather everyone's photos in one place because her mom likes to create albums and stuff like that. So it's been a gathering method, but it's never been a share. Like we've only used it when we're all in the same place at an event trying to just gather all of our photos. That's a really good idea to use it almost as a social media.
I mean, it's almost like a private Instagram where it's a photo and maybe a small caption or a small video, and it could be, I was going through a photo album and I found this old print of grandma and I'm just going to take a picture and, hey, remember grandma, and then everybody gets to see it. And it's very easy. You just got to get everybody signed into the same shared album. And then it just starts showing up. And like you said, you get a notification. It's been a really good way to stay connected with different family members that aren't close by and you can't visit. And
or who aren't on social media. My parents are not on, they refuse. Right. They've never been on any social media. And so we always have to text them the photos. And that's a really good idea, man.
We use Snapchat for that, but nothing else. So Snapchat's like our family. We don't follow anybody else. I don't, but we don't follow anybody else on Snapchat except the family. And so I go in there each night and I look at some of the snaps that the kids have put. You know, they'll update throughout the day, see the grandkids, those kinds of things.
Yep.
And
I wonder if you'll see a condensing of the social media instead of how many friends can you collect on
right
product platform ABC. How small can you make your your circle of influence?
Yeah.
It's so funny you talk about that, and this could be a whole. I won't even dive into this, but the social dilemma, right? Is that the new Netflix?
Yeah, I gotta go see that. Everybody's been talking about that.
It's phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, phenomenal. But what I've liked is actually I have found myself gravitating towards Discord because it's smaller groups with a targeted market or targeted purpose, right? So I'm in Discord groups, Discord servers, channels, whatever you want to call them, for like one for ham radio things, and they're just these very small, tight knit groups. I have no ads, I see nothing else. All I can go there and just interact with my peeps, right? These are my ham radio guys, and I can talk ham radio, no ads, no nothing, and get out and not have anything else thrown in my face. I'm like, beautiful. I would easily ditch Facebook for something like Discord full time, because I could just live there and not have to worry about all the extra stuff of the social media platforms. So you're right, Nathaniel. You've almost created your own little with photo sharing. There it is. There's another way to kind of avoid the social media. Do it yourself. Yeah, I like it. That's good.
Nathaniel, last question before we let you go, or before we wrap this up. It's Christmas time coming up. Like I don't know how many. It's not many, 60 some days, maybe for Christmas, right? Or maybe a little bit more, maybe 75 days. When you think about a tech gadget for Christmas and something you're kind of got your eyes on, hoping Santa will bring, what do you got your eyes on from a gadget perspective?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I was very intrigued about the build your own sound baffle panel that was on a couple weeks ago. So I've been watching some YouTube videos about building your own sound panel, not the LED light strip. That's crazy. That was way.
It's good.
That's like a ham radio complexity of LED light setups. I mean, it was fascinating. But I would like to add some sound baffles in here that just deaden the sound some. Yeah. So that's a project I want to kind of work on. My wife doesn't think it's a great idea, but we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of getting a little bit better at my smart home gadgets and getting them consolidated. Right now, I've got them split between Smart Things and Habitat. Yeah, and picking one, because not Smart Things can't do everything, and Habitat can do everything. Going there, and I think that would be something. But a gadget, man, I don't know. I kind of would like just a straight UHD 4K Blu-ray player.
Really?
Like, not just the Xbox, but just a.
Because I can say, why don't you just go with the Xbox?
It's just it's like the worst Blu-ray player ever.
Yeah, that's
true. Your face is bad, and the remote, and
you're right.
Yeah, I want just a plain UHD player.
Okay.
Still buy Blu-rays?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That was more what I was curious about. Is I just as more people start to just rent it off of any service, whatever device they have. The physical media side, but actually I have a few friends who are very much into owning physical media. I'm always like, I don't know how many of those are left, but good to know that there are still a lot of people out there that are buying Blu-rays. Is it hard to find? I've honestly I've bought like maybe one Blu-ray in my life because the Xbox was so bad.
It depends. What's interesting is that some movies are never upgraded to Blu-ray. Right. So I'll think like, oh, I haven't watched this movie in a long time. I want to watch it with my dad. And it's only on DVD. And I'm like, okay. And you can't rent it anywhere, so there's movies you have to get on disc. And I like, I take my Blu-rays and put them on Plex, and then I can share them with my family. And so that's part of the rationale is like, I can take it and make it digitized to share it easier than I can share a disc. But yeah, I still buy them, and not a lot. And sometimes it's cheaper. It's ridiculous that I can buy a disc cheaper on Amazon than renting it, or not renting it, but usually than buying it. So they want $14.99 to own the digital copy, and I can buy the disc for $7.99. And sometimes you can get 3 packs. So I just watched the M. Night Shyamalan series of Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. and I can get those discs cheaper in a 3-pack from England than renting them, so
It's crazy.
yeah. And now I have a big shelf of media that I'm going to have to send to Goodwill someday, but
I know we listen, we have 3 shelves of media that's because Sarah just buys them. We've bought DVDs forever. And so a movie we want, she just buys it. We don't even ask questions. And I was doing it on Plex for a while. And then I'm like, nah, it's just going to sit in the shelf. We'll just do it that way. Well, no, good enough. Well, if you guys will hang tight for me 1 second, let me close this up. We'll do a little bit of post show here, but a couple reminders before you go. I mentioned this. If you want to support us on Patreon and be part of that Patreon meetup group, which we're doing like every other month at this point, theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. We got a $5 plan if you want to join us out there. I always appreciate it when you support the show. It just allows me to have some ability to do some things here on the network or buy some gadgets and do that kind of stuff. So we appreciate that. Mike, appreciate your endorsement of Discord. And so you can join us in our Discord group, which is actually super calm. Like it's the calmest group I've ever been in. It's just super reasonable. So if you're looking for a place, right? I mean, don't you think, Mike? Oh, you muted yourself, Mike. Sorry.
It is definitely a non-toxic environment. There. You can easily throw any question out there, talk to things. People just throw stuff out there all the time. It's a really fun place.
And listen, if you make it toxic, I'm going to throw you out. So the average guy, theaverageguy.tv/Discord gets you there as well. And you know what? We'd love to, Mike and I, we got some shows coming up where it's just the two of us, and we'd love to get your voicemail. Wouldn't we, Mike? Wouldn't we love to have some voicemail, some questions, some comments, some things to respond to? I have a super easy way now for you to give us a voicemail. So go to homegadgetgeeks.com, and over in the right-hand corner, even I think on the phone version of it, there's a little microphone. If you just push it and then talk. Nathaniel referred to this ancient technology called talking on your phone earlier in the show. Nobody really knows what that is anymore, but you push the button and then you just talk. And when you're done, you push it again and we get a message from you. We'd love to have some of those messages. So this week, next week, whenever you're listening to this, just pick it up and leave us a crazy message. Do something fun. HomeGadgetGeeks.com. I want to try that service out. We recently moved that from an app to using Podpage to get it done, and they have a service where you can leave a message. So do that as well. HomeGadgetGeeks.com. If you want to send me an email, you can. Not as fun, but Jim@theaverageguy.tv. And it's always good to hear from you, Neil, who sends me an email all the time. So appreciate that. Twitter @JCollison, @Uyghur Tech over there for Mr. Uyghur. And if you want to join us on Facebook, you can join the Facebook group. theaverageguy.tv/Facebook. I had to think about that one for a second here. Theaverageguy.tv, both web and media hosting powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust, and that's Christian. He's doing bang-up work. I'm going to see him in 2 weeks, so I'm kind of excited about hanging out at his place. Full COVID, things in place, masks. We're doing the whole thing, but we're going to get a chance to see Christian here.
Great email hosting, too. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that. I run my Whiskey Zero Echo Golf Romeo, my ham radio email through him, and the website through him, and it works. It's so great. It's amazing.
He does a great job. He'll do anything. Plans start at $10. MapleGrovePartners.com, and then don't forget, December 2nd is actually, but December 3rd is the date. Thursday, December 3rd, we are going to celebrate 10 years of Home Gadget Geeks, what was called Home Tech. And Nathaniel, you were on Home Tech 143. Like, you were in here before we even changed it to Home Gadget Geeks. And do you remember us calling it Home Tech?
Yeah.
Back in the day? Yeah.
Yep. I was on that, and then Rich's random
podcast
generator.
Yeah, it was those super fun days when we were Blab before there was Blab. It was super cool.
That's right.
You can we want to have you join us December 3rd, Thursday night, December 3rd, special anniversary, 10-year anniversary party. We're going to come out, join us live. Make sure you just get that on the calendar so you join us live. We want to have you out here. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. Nathaniel, thanks for coming out and being a part. Well, one, thanks for being a part of the community. Two, thanks for being a Patreon subscriber. I appreciate that as well. And three, just thanks for being a great guy. I appreciate that.
Oh, thanks. I was thinking in my head, like, yeah, I have to pay to have friends and people to hang out with, but I didn't say it out loud until just now.
Well, but it helps us do the things that we do. So thanks.
That's what I do it for. I want to support it. I get a lot out of it.
I appreciate you doing that. So with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. Nathaniel, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. That was super fun.
It was a good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I think
Seeing a peek behind the educational curtain is so interesting to me, just because, my boys are in it, but not really, right? They're in Montessori school at ages 2 and 3. So we're not dealing with it a lot. It's more of a daycare at that point. So hearing how the schools are dealing with this it baffles me every time how you guys are getting through all this.
It's hard. And we've lost a lot of teachers in the sense that a lot of them said in the summer, nah, I'm not up for that. And I'm going to retire early or, find something else. And
this was the great retirement, right? I mean, I'm just hearing in a lot of industries, a lot of folks were like, you know what, I can, and I'm going to, and this is the time to get out.
Well, a lot of companies offered great early retirement packages.
They did.
Yeah. So I know a lot of, especially like in the big 4 accounting firms, a lot of them were taking the early retirement package, and it's sometimes for some it worked out well.
Nathaniel, do you find like do kids have the same problem we do of the mute button being on, and so you have to say you're muted. Hey, you're muted.
Oh yeah. Well, the nice thing is the teachers can do mute all now, so they can have. When you get on with the younger kids, it's just chaos, and the teachers know that, so the amount of like actual work getting done is very little in the beginning until the kids start to get the routine of how do you take turns talking, how do you raise your hand or signal, how do you mute and unmute. So it's the same with adults and teachers. And I was talking to my boss, and he said in February, before all this COVID, I was trying to get principals or whatever to do a virtual meeting with Google Meet or Teams. And I'd get one person who could connect successfully. And everyone was like, let's just drive over across the, and now it's routine. We're just doing it every day. People get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll know, I've noticed some people are starting to set up little Easter eggs in their backgrounds. So there's funny things back there, or coming in with some kind of costume, like showing up with a costume on, like little things like that are taking advantage of the medium. Because you would never, like, you're not going to show up in a chicken suit to work unless it's Halloween, right? But you can have somebody show up at a meeting in a chicken suit, right?
Yeah, I took a picture with my webcam when I was out of view of my desk at work, and so I throw that up as my background in Teams when I'm at home.
Yeah, right on.
But people say, wait a minute, I didn't think you were here today, and
it's like we had a guy take a video of him coming to the door, opening it, and then going, "Oh, sorry," and then closing it. Because that happens all the time. Too. The spouse comes in, whatever. So, except it's him. So he's on and he's playing the background, and then he himself.
That's beautiful.
And you're like, and so I think we're getting, I think we're getting to that point now. We're getting comfortable enough, maybe in the enterprise, maybe not in schools, but in the enterprise, we're getting comfortable enough where people are making memes out of this kind of stuff, or there's practical jokes that are being played, or just kind of make it feel comfortable.
How many companies have done full ad campaigns around this? Like Folgers is the most recent one I've seen. Folgers Coffee is now doing a full ad campaign around, meetings. And companies are going all in on it.
Nathaniel, are you hearing any creative things teachers are doing different that are being successful? Maybe you don't see that, but have you heard any?
I don't know. I really should expose myself more to it. The teachers are having to learn new strategies, new classroom management strategies, how to gauge the kids when you got 20 first graders on a Google Meet, Yeah. And so they're learning different routines. And I was talking with some other parents, and they're like, I've been teaching 20 years, but I feel like I'm a first year teacher. Like I'm relearning everything all over again. But, in some ways it's kind of cool. We have at the French immersion school, we have French interns that are normally here. Well, they couldn't travel here. So now they're tutoring or working with students remotely, virtually. And I'm real curious to find out over time, is that working better or worse, or,
They're in France.
Yeah, they're in France.
It's their evening.
Yep.
Day early morning here. Yeah.
Yep. So it's just different, and it'll see a lot of teachers are like, I just miss my kids.
Yeah.
I just want to be in the classroom with them. I want them to grab my leg and watch them, go outside. And the kids, the younger kids, they don't have a problem with masks at all. They could care less. They'll play outside with a mask. They'll take it off. It's not a big deal. The older kids are starting to kind of like buckle. Or be like, let's see what I can get away with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, I got a Northwest Missouri State Bearcats one for my daughter, so I've been wearing that. We've seen Husker ones, the sports ones are pretty cool. So I think there's some things we can do with masks to kind of spruce them up while we have to wear them. It won't be forever, but I think it'll be one of those things that we can kind of spruce them up. I think, if I were teaching and I could do it this way, I think I would do it like a podcast. So I think I would record my lessons over the weekend, the things they need to know, and release them on certain days and say, hey, just go watch this. You can play it at 1.5 speed or whatever to get through it, but this is the material. And then we would do hangouts like we would do meetups, and it would just to get together and talk about the material.
So some teachers are doing that. They'll do like office hours.
Yeah.
So two of the teachers that we met with my son's conferences, they're like, remember, I have office hours at 2:00 on Fridays. Just drop in, the link. You can ask me a question. And I think it's probably beneficial for some students to be able to have a one-on-one with a teacher in that medium where they're not feeling like I have to go in the classroom after school or I have to do this. So,
yeah. You can schedule those. You can schedule meeting times. You can, I think I'd love a Discord or that kind of group for the class where they can have those conversations with each other that exchange. You got to have a fairly sophisticated, that's got to be high school, maybe junior high school, to be able to get some of that to actually work.
No, my daughter uses Hangouts chat.
Okay.
And so she'll chat with her friends. Like when she was home for a whole week because she had a cough. Right. So she couldn't go to school because she had a cough. So she and another kid who were both home, they would chat during the day about stuff they were missing in class. She has a chat with her teacher. Hey, I forgot to do this. I'm going to check it on later. And, when it's innocent, it's a really good tool.
Yeah.
But with us, we have to be real careful of the inappropriate use.
Right.
And so then it's like, okay, dig in the, audit logs and then say, okay, yep, this student called this student to this. And then we're trying to focus. It's not a tech problem. They use technology to misbehave.
Right.
But it's not really a tech problem.
Right.
So it's a acceptable use policy problem.
Right. Yeah.
Other than we're not going to turn it off for everyone just because some kids misused it.
Yeah. Well, and those are conversations in some cases, those are bullying conversations that went on the playground, and there was no audit logs.
Right.
So it was never taken care of. So in some terms, this may be better to be able to monitor. Now, and I think it's where you land on that. Like some people would say that's too much. Like that's too much monitoring.
I think it's good practice for those kids. Make those mistakes. Learn that when you gang up on someone through chat or through what was the notebook thing in one of the movies of like a slam book. If you have a paper notebook where you write mean things about people versus a Google Doc where you write mean things about people, maybe you're learning that that's not a good idea.
Right.
And so in some ways, my philosophy is like, this is a good place for students to make mistakes like that and to screw up because we can learn from it, versus if we lock everything down, then they're going to go to Snapchat or to other things that we have no control, no visibility. Right. And then the parents are all upset. This kid is bullying my other kid in this class and this and this. And we're like, we don't know anything about it.
Right.
So it's a balance. It's happening
in the playground. Andrew says his son's teacher's doing an amazing job with his pre-K class. He seems to be getting a lot out of it. So that's super great. Well, good stuff. I've kept you guys long enough. You guys hang tight for me. If you're listening live in the chat room, thanks for coming out. Don't forget, I think we're back. No, actually, we're not next week. I am gone for the week.
Before we left the podcast show.
We'll do it. That's okay. We're doing the Bit Defender. I got to mix that up and get that ready to go before I go next week. But so no live show next week. We're back in 2 weeks. I've just been back from the East Coast. So go watch another show next week. Go do something different. Spend some time with family. Light a fire pit. Go outside. Enjoy the weather. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming out.